One of the things that that stood out, particularly over the last few weeks, with us all coming together, is the desire of everybody to find something. Doesn't matter what it is, and you're not looking for it in me. You're looking for it in you, and that's the excellence of this whole exercise, if you like, if you call it an exercise, is that each person shows their uniqueness and each person finds that unique result. And to share the joy of that amongst one another is the magic. What we're doing has nothing to do with even gathering together. It's to do with it's time, and I'm going to do it, and I don't care how. It'll happen. And that's the magic. Because each one of you draws on something that you didn't have before. Something not just within yourself, but outside of yourself. Something you didn't really know yet you had. And drawing on the unknown is such a beautiful thing, because it's unpredictable, it's magic, and it always works, even if you get it wrong.
That's fun.
And that's the big thing that we're working with tonight, really, is the fact that we've got to a point where we can stretch out and get a hold of something that belongs to us. Even if it's just a sense of feeling good. And then to do something with it without giving it away. To make sure that we feel everything that we've done. And we feel it in a totally different way to what we've ever expected. The fact that you are, you're totally aware that you can heal yourself to the point where you don't have to, because everything is going fine. You're not really coming across too many hiccups. And if you are, they don't belong to you anyway. The ability of you to tap into and own that massive intelligence that you have and not really have to use it because you know it's there. It works by itself. And each time we've addressed a new subject of any sort, we've ended up with, and if you're happy for it to run by itself, it will. Every section of it, no matter what you go into and you look back at it, you'll see that we've all gone around the circle and we've looked at all sorts of difficulties and everything, and then we've come back to that centre point and said, so just observe it and watch yourself program everything around you to make sure it works without you having to even worry about it. So you place your order that fast now that you don't even think about it. It happens through some means that's outside of the thought patterns. And it happens through many complex areas that are so simple you just say, it's okay, we can do it. And it happens. And you know exactly what you're doing, but you know that you don't have to do any hard work. And you don't really have to know the theory. So now that we're at that point, we can look at one another or look at anybody else and know exactly what we have to do to assist in holding whatever energy is required or whatever picture is required so that that person can take themselves to where they need to go. And the magic that comes from a person that starts to do that is unbelievable. Is it okay if I talk about it today?
Yeah.
Your daughter?
Yes.
And her name was? Amanda. Came in hardly able to walk through the door. She had Lyme's disease and many other things for a long, long time. And everyone was quite concerned about her. And Barbara and Marsha sat in the background to hold the energies for us. And we facilitated Amanda, who was very, very ill, to heal herself. And it was just a magic experience. All I did was led her through the various things, and she did everything perfectly and beyond anything we could have suggested. And we left her with the option of whatever she wanted to do. And all I did was coax her to get out of her body a bit, to move out of it and sit in a comfortable place above the body, and then to rejoin with the body and start to have a look. And right there at that point, you could feel the assistants come in. And none of us knew that she was so attached to the fairies. But in they came, and they started to untangle all the difficulties, untangle her energy, and it was just like they're flying out with a beautiful lace. And they just kept doing it and going through into her body, clearing everything out and putting it in order. And then we suggested that she has a bit of a look inside to make sure it's clean enough for her, to make sure that temple was hers. And just gave her the opportunity to direct the fairies to do what they needed to do. And she was so busy. You wouldn't believe it. It was just beautiful to watch. And she was just sitting there with her eyes closed, and you could feel the activity. The hairs were standing up on my arms. Everyone was feeling this place was really vibrating. And then, because she's had such a hard time, I suggested that there's no way she could ever come back. But she could project herself in there, into the body, providing it was exactly the way she wanted it, as her temple. And I suggested she started to move the colours around in there, and she started to paint these magic pictures inside herself and around her, and then she felt the size of herself. She's a massive energy. She's a massive being. And then we could feel her starting to move out, couldn't we? Mm-hmm. She was just getting bigger and bigger and growing every second, and making sure every cell of her body and every piece of energy around her and anything that touched her was exactly as she needed it. And the precision she had was just amazing. And then I suggested that she sit with that and remake the connection just as you would with the horse, with dressage. And allow that connection to grow. And you could feel it pulsing and making its way till it became really stable. And then I said, now you can start to pass the messages through. And gradually reconnect with your body. Find out how your fingers work. Just start to move your fingers, your toes, and take your time. We've got plenty of time. Gradually opened her eyes and took up her position in the perfection of that really big energy connected perfectly to the body. And she didn't say much, just sat there, and then she just moved a little bit and she said, I haven't got any pain. That's all she said. She was talking to herself, not even conscious of us there, was she? And gradually she came back to seeing the room and feeling everybody, and then this big smile came on her face. So she's asleep now and she's doing really well. But that's all we've worked towards, being able to coax one another to produce the magic. And she had no idea she could do that until she started. Then when she got to the end, she knew exactly what she was doing. And now I just said to her, you don't have to do anything. You've done it. Make sure you feel your presence all the time, and all those people around you that you're going to affect, you'll be amazed. Because all she has to do is hold that transmission and she'll change the world. So understand where you've got to. You've got to that position where you can sit with a smile on your face and say, yeah, I can sit with you while you do that. I don't care how sick you are. Many, many things that you will come across from here on, you'll just take on. But you'll take them on not to do a job, but because you know that's easy. And you won't try to convince anybody. They'll come and see you. And every one of you will be doing this very, very soon, if you're not doing it now. What you've brought into this world is the ability to take somebody's picture or somebody's essence and make it acceptable in the world. If you have a look at the size of what that means to someone who's never been accepted, you know you've made a real big difference to the world. As people come into your field, they will send to you a signal that's probably only about 20 milliseconds long. And in that signal contains their heart's desire of how they're supposed to be seen in the world. You are all capable of getting that 20 milliseconds and expanding it out to the size of a lifetime and accepting it into this world. And you'll do that for your friends, and you'll do it for the young ones coming through. The big thing is, you probably didn't know that you could do that until I mentioned it. But as soon as I mentioned it, you said, yeah, we can do that. That's easy. Is that all I've got to do? And in fact, that is all you've got to do. The essence of every person can fit in its own unique place in this world if we put it there. Because we have the right to do that. And we've sat and pulled in the unknown and made it real without one explanation of what it is. That only took you a few weeks to catch on to. That you could actually bring the unknown in and sit it on the matrix of the connection between all of you, and it becomes real without being painted as a picture. It becomes real in your life. and it becomes physical in the fact that it attracts everything that's needed in that life as it's been painted on the matrix that holds the reality. The fact that you've now got that, and you now know that you can bring to this world anything you need, puts you in a position where you don't need anything. And when you're in a position where you don't need anything, you'll find that you start to feel great about yourself. You've got more than you can ever imagine. Your lifestyle goes up to the level that fits your being. And you've got so much left over for everyone else. Quite different to what the brain says. Quite different to what we've written down in the books. And quite different to anything we can explain. While I'm talking, you're starting to get a better feel for that part of you that understands, and it's not a brain understanding. It's a part of you that's been hidden under definitions. It's a part of you that works perfectly by itself. And your connection with your Creator is now so much part of your life that you don't even think about saying anything about it. And as a result of that, you can feel that where you started off with having to connect this way doesn't mean anything anymore. You're just connected to everything. You're connected in every dimension through a means that you don't have to list. It's a beautiful feeling. It supports you and it keeps you vertical even if you're floating above the earth. What I wanted to do to really cap this off is to take you back out to that infinity beyond the infinite. And if we just take a couple of seconds and we'll step back through infinite trust and mention how infinite trust is you, and how as soon as I say anything about it, you feel it in your heart. There's a very subtle feeling that pops up, and it's connecting you directly through a single line straight to the infinite. Once that connection happens, you can then go a fraction further to the infinite, beyond the infinite, and you can start the music transmitting from that, the point of that infinite, and allow the energies to grow as you transmit. And bring it all into that point where you're about to birth once again that star. And as it builds, all of a sudden it births and expands right throughout the universe. And those fine energies that are everywhere then start to come back and reunite with your being here on earth. And as that happens, you revisit everything about yourself. Every cell, every function. And this time, you rejoin it with the perfection that you know. The perfection that only you know. And as you feel that reconnection, you feel that you're part of the universe in every way. And in being part of the universe, you're everywhere. And the fineness of the energies recreates a being that is totally different to the one you started with. Totally different. This is your gift to you. This is the one that you'll redo and redo and redo as you accelerate through the various levels that you intend to go through. You don't have to do anything, but you are. And each time you get together, you will find that you don't even need a comparison. You don't need a definition of love. You don't need a definition of anything. Your connection is infinite, and your connection with one another is infinite. And the being you see in front of you belongs to you. And your care for that is the same as the care for your own body. And as we continue, your precision becomes greater. And you're now at a point where you can navigate way beyond the infinite. Navigate at speeds that you have never imagined. And look like your body is sitting still. And as I talk, you can feel that you're travelling in many, many different directions to many galaxies in a high speed, such that it's almost instantaneous. And the finer your energies become, the more instantaneous it is, to where you're fully aware that you're everywhere. The next stage will amaze you, because you're about to birth a universe. And many of you are fully aware of that. And in doing that, the world will change, the universe will change. And you'll open the way for everyone to be that brilliant light that they know exists in every part of every cell of every body, such that you birth within yourselves and you birth within the universe all at once. Your body has become a relaxed component of the exercise that we talk about. And it doesn't take up a form that's separate. The edges of your being are so far out now that the edge of your body doesn't seem to exist. The brain will ask, what's this all about? It won't get an answer. And each one of us has a unique input into the universe that we feel is the whole universe. And that's how it is. Each one of us is the universe. As we take ourselves through the non-linear part of our expansion, everything turns inside out. And you can start to feel a slight energy that flips everything and recreates in the reverse direction. I don't want to push that too far, but I know that I had to introduce it, and you can feel it. Because that's the point where all energies are self-generating, and where you become the infinite source. Everyone in this room understands fully what I'm saying. Yet, it's a long time since you experienced it. From this point on, you'll be so inquisitive about what's coming next, you'll do it yourself. And I'm going to allow us all to just sit with the music. As that music penetrates, you'll feel everything start to reverse. Good. Feel that? Good. So now you know what drives everything. As soon as you got to that point and we started the music, you took off. Just sit with it and allow it to keep going. The beauty of what you feel grows every second in this next process. Because it's your process. You'll feel yourself sampling everything in the world, everything on earth, everything above and everything below. And in that sampling, you pass the same regeneration. You pass it with such sincerity and such devotion and such clarity that everything in the universe follows. That's beautiful. Welcome to my world. This is where I live. This is where you live. And this is the start of your life. Now your password is totally recognised and you're collecting your gifts. The real gifts of you. Feel your own music. Feel the perfection. And know that you can open your eyes to this world and never move from where you are. The days of returning to where you thought you were are over. You don't have to come back. Such a wonderful feeling. Such a wonderful place to be. And you invited yourself. I want you to just sit quietly and enjoy. And when you feel like getting up, do so. But we'll call a break, and I'd just like you to enjoy the moment. And I don't care how long the moment is. And I'd like you to maintain everything by doing nothing. And make sure you have water. We really need you to look after that flow. Thank you. So the big thing about the break was so that you'd feel the interaction of one another, and you would lose a little bit of contact with where you were just before the break. It's essential that you feel that, so that you can switch into it and stay in there no matter what's happening. And now that I mention that, you can track that you quickly overlaid everything when you got into conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. But just be aware of the feeling that happens, and you just feel a little bit in your heart as I'm talking. It's still there. And you don't have to do anything except every now and then observe the fact that you're in a different place. And you're a whole different person to what you used to be. I don't have any real way of doing that for myself, except I get reminded. And when I write, I get told I'm not fully operating the way I should be. You'll come up with your own method. Make sure that you set some safety system in your life that reminds you that you really need to make sure that you're operating correctly. And don't let anybody tell you what correctly is. Because many times it'll be quite different, even for yourself. Sometimes you're operating correctly is doing nothing, and other times operating correctly is working really hard. The main thing is to know that you don't come from the same place anymore. You come from a place where you can do anything. Anything ever come across. You can achieve anything. And you can try anything. And you don't care whether it's successful or not, you can do it, if you wish. But you don't do it to anybody else's standard. And you don't test yourself against anything except your own knowing. So when something comes up in front of you that you really believe that you can do something about, you'll notice that you won't even do anything, because unless it's for you, you don't need to, because all you need to do is project who you are, and the other people, persons or whatever, will start to feel that they can do it. And that's when you really smile. Because all that's required is a little bit of interaction, and they'll take off and get done whatever they need to do. To get to where you've just gone, there is no method. We just used one that creates a sense of how to do it. And that sense is what you worked with. And if I got two people together, any random two people, they would describe what happened and even describe what I said. Totally different. I want you to be really aware that there's no method. And really aware that it doesn't matter what you do, you can't make a mistake. Because you've accessed you. And the only person that knows how you work is you. And you've gone to that point where your regeneration actually goes through a flip and starts to do it again. And I was talking to a few people, and various ones are saying it's like the change of direction in infinity, and I say yes. But remember, that's happening in a million different directions at once, and it's never at the same spot. And only you know that, and only you know the feeling of reversing the whole sequence, but still going in the same direction. It's the same as the first time you realised that if you did the opposite to what your brain decided, it would work. Every time. Because there is no way of making anything wrong. It'll always work. From here on, don't even bother about what's positive or negative. Just allow it to go to the right place. Ride the wave no matter whether it's good, bad or indifferent. And I don't know what indifferent is, but sounds good. And the light-hearted way of living is the total way of living. We can have a serious spot in us for about a half a second. After that, it just goes stale. When we progress from here, we'll be progressing an enormous amount, and it'll be within the balance of humour. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Isn't that what you did when you first started to grow as a child? Oh, you felt that. Good. So even in the highest development, the reflection of how we get past that highest limit that we think we've got is through joy, humour, and not going anywhere near what we think is a linear projection. Nowhere near it. From this point on, as we get together, the music will actually sound different to you. it'll sound like it's got a lift to it. Whereas it used to feel like it was mellow. We went through that reversal, and you'll now see that other beat that's in classical music. It's a hidden beat of excitement. One that you didn't think was there. And it exists in the silence. So if you take any classical piece, and when it comes to the silence, something's happening to you. You'll see now that you actually speed up in the silence. You generate a whole new essence that takes you way past the vibration that your body can stand. And that's what conditions you and builds you and takes you further. It's a very, very quick impulse that comes from it because of the silence. So play with that a little bit. It's the point that really sends you a bit crazy. The way they got rid of all the gangs hanging around many of the cities in Australia, they started to play classical music. They just left. But besides that, they were happy. Amazing. They didn't leave in turmoil. They left happy. This is the bit that we'll feel. This is the bit that it doesn't matter what you do. That essence of something within you that bursts into life as soon as you put a gap in the music is how you generate free power. And I'll keep saying this until the whole lot sinks in with everybody. When you get to that point where you've ebbed, your whole energy system is waiting to bounce out. And when it stops, the energy system just goes ping and shoots past anything we've ever seen before. And when it does that, it generates more power for the next note. I'm getting technical, but it's fun. As you start to see that unusual things happen around you, you'll get a little bit inquisitive. How can that happen? I wasn't doing anything. You are. That's when you're the most active. When you're the most inquisitive. Someone says, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. You feel what's happening inside you. You're going, waiting for them to shut up so you can yell. That's the same reaction with the whole being. That's the whole thing in the universe. And that's what we can harness for free energy. What they call cosmic energy. So I'm introducing these things little bit by bit so that when we get to the point where technology is available and I turn to someone who doesn't think they know anything about it and I'll say, so how does that work? You'll tell me straight away. All this information is held within each one of you. And we're getting close to the point where it's not the inventors that will do it. It's the people. And they'll do it from nothing. It's a long way behind proving what we already know. A long way behind. I used to sit and look at what's happening in the computer and think, why have they done all that way? It's too hard. And I could see how it can be done without a fraction of the components. And in my early engineering, I used to build computers before you could buy laptops. I designed and built the things, including all the printed circuits. And I knew that it was way out of date. But we didn't have anything to tell the scientists. Because all the parts that are built are all hidden in a company that doesn't spread the technology. So it's been very slow because they have to change their equipment, and that costs money. But we're way ahead of all that. We know how things work. We know what we can do. Why do you reckon sometimes your energy gets up to a point where your computer doesn't work? Or where your computer just goes into another program and you think, how'd that happen? I didn't touch it. Because we are able to affect all that stuff because we're way ahead of it and we actually do what the computer does within ourselves as a simple, tiny little part of us. And if you get someone who's really fired up, they walk in near your computer, it'll stop every time. Because you're generating frequencies that just kill it. And it happens more with a female than a male. Because of the creative powers they have. And they'll just go, boop, and the computer's had it, and you say, oh, go back a bit. Stand back there a little bit. Oh. And it happens around me a lot. So know that we're looking towards many things that are way beyond technology, including how we affect one another. And how we affect one another is an enormous science. We live in a world where we are influencing one another, either for the better or the worse. But the greatest science in all of it is to enhance one another. And that is a science that will grow in our new world of miracles and magic. Because the combination of the right two people will produce miracles every time, but not all the time. So the science of knowing what you've got to bring together, who you've got to bring together, and what you want to make of it is very important. And there are many amongst you that know who has to be where and why and who has to be contacted, namely. And there are many who call themselves organisers. That is a major science that's happening to produce results that no company will ever be able to produce. So look forward to that and that leadership that makes things happen. And it's not in company directors. It's in each one of you. And more so the female. Because they can see quicker. They have the chemistry that puts things together for creative purposes. And if they say, I need this person, this person, this person, there's one missing, they'll come along later on, you take notice of it. Because it'll work. And you'll produce magic like you've never seen before. So as we start to get together more, you'll find particular projects will come up and you'll know who has to be involved. It is not selective, and it's never the same for two projects. It's actually the selection of the person who is the sensitive in that area. And even though you might be a key feature in it, you can't do it unless you have the right combinations. Like we could never have got out and done what we're doing now without all the right people in the right places at the right time. Each time we speak, there are different combinations of people to take us to different points, to take us through different stages. And it's not a coincidence. It's what happens. And those who are not part of the combination for one step will find they can't get here. And that's no problem. That's how it is. Where we go from here is as much of an unknown to me as anybody else. But what I do know is that we're going very, very fast with a massive flow and with energies that we've never seen before. And in that we'll leave no one behind. Whether they can do what we can do or not, they won't be left behind. They may be in the second wave, or the third wave, or the fourth wave, but nobody will be left behind. When we talk about moving forward from this point, you'll notice that you can't move forward if you've got somebody who is supposed to be on the second wave. Don't worry about that. Just make sure they get on the second wave. But don't try to pull yourself down to get them up onto the wave you're on now. It's a natural process, just like being in the surf. Someone slips off the first wave, no use trying to go back and get them. It doesn't work. It's exactly the same. And it's not a problem. It's just they get on the next one. And come the end of the day, they'll all be in, even if they've had to paddle. And some will paddle because they won't get out from under the waves. But they'll still get there. One of the things that we're going to pursue is the elegance within us that stays on top every day, all day, no matter what. That is our major pursuit for us. Where you are now, that is possible. Without knowing anything. The big thing is external influences will still affect you until you've perfected the interface that's perfect for you. That interface started tonight, at that time when we just turned everything and the music was our main feature. While we're talking, you forget that. As you experience more things, you will bring that music back in at critical times so that you shoot straight to that point where you are so fine, nothing can touch you. And you will revisit your being and your body and your world from that finer energy that can rebuild things to perfection in a fraction of a second. So it'll just feel like a burst of energy. But it takes that whole birth of a star into action and produces an interface that outstrips anything that can come into our field. The complexities of that you don't need. Just let me worry about the complexities until you've got it, and it'll run by itself. One of the advantages I have at the moment is because I can still see how things work. And I know that nobody has to get to the stage where they understand it. Because I know you can see it. You just don't know what the form is yet. And if I can sit and reflect what that form is, you've got it, because you already have the vision. Sounds strange to the brain, what I'm talking about now, but so did a lot of things when we started. But no, the purpose is to make sure every moment of every day, no matter what comes into your field, you can feel your own presence, you can laugh at anything, and your life progresses every second. And you don't need to achieve anything. Your brain just gets lost when I throw all those different variables in. But I can assure you you're there, and it's only a matter of a very, very short period. And the description I gave you about everything being perfect all the time, and you feeling you all the time, even in the middle of turmoil, and you'll smile at the worst of things, knowing that it's going to change as soon as it gets into your field. It's an isolation in a way, but it's a freedom in every other way. All the senses that used to say, I have to do this for that person, or I have to do this to prevent that, will disappear. Because it doesn't work that way. It works through a smile and a laugh and saying, so what? Who cares? Because it doesn't work like that. And everything changes because of the fact it becomes light. The lightness is the closest to you that you can ever imagine. And if you can play with that, you'll create a lightness about your character, about your feelings, about what you see, about everything around you, so that it's closer to you. And on that note, I think we'll finish and say thank you so much. And know that we are with you always. Thank you.